What is a web application? A web application is an application software that runs on a web server. Unlike computer-based software programs that are run locally on the operating system of a device, web applications are accessed by the user through a web browser with an active network connection. Web applications are very common in the area that we are living in. Every single one of us has a ton of applications on our phones, computers, or tablets. It is a rapidly growing market ever since the beginning of the 2000s, but do we know how they actually work? A web application is a client-server program. The client refers to the program that is being run by an individual user, and the server often refers to the program being run in the background. To be more specific, a web application needs a user interface for the user to interact with the application, a web server that manages the requests from the client, and a database to store users' information. To understand this better, we have to know more about web application architecture. Web application architecture consists of two main parts, front-end and back-end. The front-end side of the application is what the user sees when they open the app. The back-end side of the application refers to the server side of development, which is primarily focused on how the site actually works. Code written by back-end developers is what communicates with both the database and the information to the browser or the front end. To understand the components of a web application better, we first need to understand how a basic client-server request and response works. I want to walk you through the process with an example. Let's say you opened your web browser and typed facebook.com. Your request to access facebook.com will go to a domain name server to find out where the server of the website is located. So the access request is sent to the location of the server. The web service of Facebook will catch this request and send it to the storage area to locate the page and all the data associated with it. But there is one more step between the web server and the storage, namely business logic. Business logic is the part of the code where the main purpose of the app is executed. After business logic processes the request, it sends the request to the storage to locate your data. Once the data is found, it is time for you to receive and see the content on the app. This is the basis of how web application architecture mechanisms work. Now that we've covered the necessities of web application architecture, it's time to discuss how web application architectures are implemented in practice. As with most domains, there is typically a divergence between how the theory is discussed and how the domain is used in practice. Web application architecture is no different. As mentioned previously, the primary web application architecture that is often employed is that of client-server. Although client-server is a great abstraction, the vast majority of time, developers are not implementing this architecture from scratch. This is where the critical idea of frameworks come into view. Frameworks are simply software packages that enable developers to much more easily get up and running. Frameworks manage to achieve a number of desired objectives, such as a very key one of reusability. In other words, not writing redundant code over and over again. In conclusion, web applications have become a fundamental part of day-to-day life, enabling individuals around the world to work, communicate, consume entertainment, and do much more. Although they might be implemented differently, they all leverage the idea of client-server architecture and generally resemble a common architecture. Thank you.